I'm not ashamed to hold my Lord, nor to defend his cause. Maintain the honors of his word, the glory of his cross.
Well, because we don't have very many of our class here this morning, we are going to, and it's not going to be very long, we're going to finish up Revelation chapter 13, but we are not going to get into chapter 14 as I had said last week. So let's quickly read, and for time's sake, I'm going to quickly remind us what Revelation 13, 11 to 18 said. We're almost done this segment. Revelation 13, 11 to 18. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of people. And by the signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So we've been talking about this second beast that came up out of the earth. And we had already discussed that he had 2 horns like a lamb, and of course this represents religious error. And this second beast stood in the place of the Lamb of God. He was what we would describe as a wolf in sheep's clothing. And really, the second beast is representing religious error and emperor worship especially. The first beast represented the Roman Empire. And the second beast caused people to want to worship the first beast. Well, if the Roman Empire is the first beast, second beast causing you to worship the first beast, that's where emperor worship comes from. He spoke as the dragon. He used all the power of the first beast, which was the political power of the Roman Empire, and he made people worship the first beast, who had his deadly wound healed. Now, we had discussed last week what would happen if you did not have the mark of the beast, either written on your forehead or on your hand. Gord.
Couldn't buy or sell.
Couldn't buy or sell. And in the first century, it was, you had to have almost a certificate saying that you had done your duty. You had pinched some incense and said, "Caesar is Lord." If you had done that, you were able to buy and sell. And if you didn't, you weren't. This persecution was real. It was not, yes, Revelation is using symbols and signs, but it does represent real events, even though these are symbolic. The mark of the beast was not a number literally written on someone's forehead or literally carved into their hand, but it was a symbol that you followed the beast, in this case Rome and the Roman Empire. It was symbolic, just as the Christians who were sealed with the seal of God, it was symbolic that you followed God. All of this was symbols. But our last question really comes from verse 18, which is, what is the number of the beast? 666. Now, many people don't know a lot about what the Bible teaches, but there are certain things that a lot of people who have heard a little bit about the Bible know. Some people will understand Adam and Eve and the snake. That's a very interesting story. People know about that. Generally, if they've heard about the Bible, they might have heard about Jesus, and maybe about him dying on a cross. May not have any clue as to what that represents, but might remember Noah's Ark or Jonah being swallowed by the great fish. But more often than not, you'll find people come along and say, number 666. They know that. Of all the things, there's a lot of things that they don't know, but they hear 666. And there is a lot of confusion, a lot of error, and a lot of speculation as to what this number is, who this number is, because remember, the passage says this number represents a man. And so and then verse 18 says, he who has wisdom, you can calculate the number of the man. And so people come along and try to figure out who this beast is. But before we get to that, and we will look at that, what do numbers represent in the book of Revelation? I'm not speaking about specific numbers, but are they numbers?
It's figurative.
It's
On
figurative?
the theme of Revelation, it's figurative.
Yeah, it's figurative. So this number literally is not 3 6s written on someone's forehead. It's symbolic. Now, what numbers are perfection? 7 and 10. All right, so 7 is perfection. So if this number was 777, we would say, perfection. That's what we're talking about here. But it's not 777. 666. What does 6 represent?
Not quite 7.
Not quite 7. It's
Enough to hold weight.
Yeah, it's not like as far as it's not quite 7, but it's imperfection. It's the number of a man. Like as far as it means that the saints knew that this was not God, this was not Christ, and this mark was not going to last forever or a perfect. It was imperfection, as Callow was saying. The saints would know who the beast was by calculating his name. Now, while we might struggle as to who this beast was, like the Roman officials who might have read this letter might not understand, the Christians of John's era, the seven churches, the members of the 7 churches who read this letter would have known who this beast was, because the events were about things that were shortly to come to pass. They would read this book, they would understand. But because these events are about things that are shortly to come to pass, we need to remember that this beast isn't in our present. It isn't in our future. It is in our past. A far distant past, closer to the 1st century. Now, people today try to use this number, and Gord asked me, why have I 2 weeks in a row put the alphabet up, and Naomi did it this week, put the alphabet up as a chart here. Well, people have tried to take the number 666 and try to apply it to people to try to figure out today who is the beast. And if you don't know, Hitler was identified as the beast. They calculated his name to be 666. Stalin, the first dictator of the Soviet Union, he was identified as the beast because he calculated his name to be 666. Communism as an economic idea, that was calculated to be the beast. It wasn't a man, it was communism. Or the Pope. It doesn't matter which pope. Certain of the popes, you take their names, the names that they take as pope, and you calculate them, and people have calculated them to be the beast, or Catholicism in general. But remember, the number 666 was the number of a man in John's day, not our day. But you might say, how do they do that? How can one figure out the number 666 of a man? Well, one of the ways that people do it, and for those who are viewing online, you can't see it, but you can imagine I have put all the letters of the alphabet, 26 of them, on the board. And underneath each letter I have put a number. Well, A would be the first letter of the alphabet, B is the second, C is the third, all the way on to Z, which is 26. And so what people do is they take a name. Now I'm going to take a current name that's in history today. Hitler and Stalin, those people are all dead. And I tried various names. I finally found one.
Trump.
No, I tried Donald Trump. I tried Justin Trudeau too, just to be, so people don't think I'm being too political. I tried Donald Trump, I tried Justin Trudeau, I tried Kathleen Whitten, none of them worked. But this man does. So what you do, alright, so you know if you know the dictator in Turkey, or the president, we'll call him the president. He's almost a dictator in Turkey. His name is Recep Erdogan. He's not a very nice guy. You don't want to go to Turkey and be against him. And that's how you spell his name in English. So what you do is you come along, okay, that's how you spell his name. Alright? Bill, you can help me out. R. What number's under R?
18.
18. E.
5.
Okay.
3. 5.
And P.
P. 16.
Okay. And Gord, can you help me out with Erdogan?
5, 6, 18, 4, 13,
No,
15.
15, 7, 1, 14.
14. Okay. Now, Naomi, you want to take those and add those numbers up, or do you have your calculator? I want you to do it. I want you to prove that I picked. So you've taken someone's name and you've put these numbers underneath. You put those numbers underneath the letters, and then you take the numbers, add them up. And once Naomi gets them there, I should have told her to do it as we're going along. So we get 1, 1, 1. Well, that's not 6, 6, 6. But multiply 1, 1, 1 by 6, and you get 6, 6, 6.
That's lame.
No, I'm not. This might seem foolish, and it is. You're exactly right. But that's how people do it.
Just
Some people either.
making it work for their.
Yes.
Well, okay, why not if it's 2, 2, 2? Why don't you multiply it by 3?
Yeah, Gord, you answered my next question, which is, what is wrong with this? There are many things wrong with this. First of all, Gord's thing is this. Well, you can pick anyone's name and try to work it out. Yeah, you could take if say I wanted to do Recep Erdogan, but it was 112. Well, I might come along and try to work it so I can get rid of some numbers here and add some numbers there. Well, if the number isn't quite 111 or 222, well, can I figure out their middle name and add that in there, or their middle initial? Or can you do that? And that's exactly right. People do that here. And it's absurd because you are fooling with the numbers. Now, some of them actually do come out to 666 without any manipulation. But here's the other problem. What language is that where are we using?
Less Hebrew.
Well, what language are we using?
Well,
English.
yeah.
What language was John writing in?
Greek.
Greek. Is everything spelled exactly the same way?
No, Greek has a different alphabet.
They have a different alphabet, and first of all, Rome spoke Latin, and so you have to consider, well, alphabets, they might not be the same. People might not spell their name the same way in different languages as they do. So Jose in Spanish, J-O-S-E, but in English that would be Joseph. Well, it's J-O-S-E-P-H now, if you translate their name into English. Well, so if we were to take someone's name and translate it into English, it might not translate from their original language with the same letters and the same numbers. And so that's why doing something as silly as this is futile. This is not what Revelation 13 was talking about. They would be able to look out at what was described in Revelation chapter 13. Look at what the events were that were being described, talking about not being able to buy and sell, not having to have emperor worship. When that came up, they could know who that man was, because he would reveal himself to them. That's what would happen. But this is just one way people try to take Revelation, make it relevant to today, and try to come up with some of these weird prophecies. Bill?
Just some of the more conservative commentators make the point that this was written for the encouragement of the New Testament Christians.
Yes.
Right, at that time. And like you said, 7 was always divine, related with God. 6 was always related to the kingdom of man.
Mm-hmm.
And by having triple sixes, this was like the ultimate evil sort of thing. And that, to me, that kind of made more sense, because like you say, this can be, if you're going to use this kind of, what's the word?
That's numerology.
Yeah, like you can make it work for 100 man.
You can make it work for anyone.
Yeah.
My dad, when he wrote material similar to this, I used some of his material. He had Henry Kissinger, and I'm like, I don't know how many people know who Henry Kissinger is. He was the Secretary of State of the United States when Richard Nixon was president. He was a very famous man, but his name, when you spell it, actually did come out to 666 when you came up to it. And he was very famous at the time when people who were anti-Nixon, Henry Kissinger is 666, and I'm like, this is crazy, but I just had to pick someone from today just to make the point. But Bill's right. 666 is ultimate evil. As far as the kingdom of man is 6. Man is less than perfection. This beast was not God, even though he was playing like God, and he was the ultimate evil that was going to persecute Christians. And we'll see what happens in the rest of this book.
Following your thing on the board there, I mean, there's probably hundreds of thousands of names that would have fulfilled that one way or the other.
At different points in history. I could probably figure out how to get so your name did it, or my name. I wasn't wanting to pick on someone in the audience just because, first of all, their name would go up online. I don't like that. But second of all, I don't want to make someone feel bad if their name came out to be one of the numbers. But yeah, you're right. As I said, Hitler and Stalin were both labeled as the beast at one point. Communism as the thing. But you notice all of these things. Hitler, Stalin, communism, anyone who has tried to, in modern days, make this the beast, those people have come and gone. And the prophecies that follow the beast here in Revelation didn't come to pass when those men died. It tells us that they were not those men. The prophecies concerning the beast and the Roman Empire, they did happen. The book is written about things that would shortly come to pass. So let's not rip a verse. This is one of those verses you can rip out of context. You come along and read verse 18. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man, his number is 666. You take that verse and do not read the rest of Revelation 13, and you come along and say, well, see, we have to calculate the number of a man. His number is 666. He's going to be evil. And we do all of that. It's not how Revelation 13.
That comes up to 135.
What was? Oh, your name comes out to 135.
I'm okay.
You're good. Okay, well, I'm glad. But this is ridiculous. You can make it up to be anyone's name. You can do it, and if you come along and shorten your name, lengthen your name, skip letters in your name, use a nickname, you could probably work it. And that's not what John was telling the people in Revelation to do. He was telling them about things that they would face. The beast was real in the time of the people of Revelation. The devil is real today. I'm not going to come along and say the devil is not real, or that the devil is inactive today. The devil is active. But we don't know everything that the devil does. We know that he tempts us to sin. We know he is trying to thwart God and Jesus. We know he persecutes the church. But this is about a specific persecution in the Roman Empire. That's what we need to remember, is that this was about things that the Christians at the time John wrote this would face. And so next week then, we're going to cut off a little early because of the freezing rain that's about to come. We're going to start our worship service a little early. So Revelation chapter 14 is where we'll pick up next week. We're going to come and we're going to be dealing with the 144,000 again. And I would like you to remember about what we talked about with the 144,000 in chapter 7 when we saw this figure last time. What it represented there, as far as what that number represented. Because we're going to come across it again, and we're going to be dealing with that again. And so that will be, the Lord willing, next Sunday.
I'm not ashamed to own my Lord, nor to